Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Talking Smack, where we have just watched the season finale of House of the Dragon Season 2, and Alex and I have some thoughts, so we needed to get on for content. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing I'll answer that question in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty fair. For the most part, yeah, it's really just jumping into things and setting the board again, because we had to wait 2 to 3 years for this. But we're going to go full spoilers on this. And the season has really just made me
shiver with anticipation.
Yeah, Tim Curry would have improved this season.
And that's it, everyone. We're heading out of here. You hear the music? We're going. No, I'm kidding. We do have some actual thoughts here, but it is really just a lot of setting up the board. The people that say nothing happened, they're full of shit. There's plenty of stuff that happened, but this season really felt like it could have been condensed into like 4 or 5 episodes, and they could have done 3 or 4 more episodes after that. I don't know how long the book is. I don't know where we are in the book. I haven't read it. I know there are some things that you and I talked about, Alex, where like I complained, I think it was the first episode where they beheaded the child.
Yeah.
Where I had mentioned that Damon lays out a pretty decent description of Aemond and is like, it's the guy with the eye patch. And the guys can't find him. And then they go, anyone will do, right? Like they just said the boy. Like that's anyone in this house, right?
After waiting 2 years for it to come back, I really needed a primer of some kind, because I forgot who half of these people were. And I then, after an episode, I'm like, if I remember remembering this correctly, and the book people are just along the lines of, oh, well, they're setting this up, or oh, they changed this, or this person might have done this. I know that they're going to change things. It's perfectly fine. My problem is, if you make me wait 2 years between things, I need to feel like there's some kind of momentum. Having, Damon just spin his wheels and plot against his not cousin. I forget. Is she is the prince?
She's his niece.
Yeah, plot against his niece, but then not plot, but then have a Star Wars vision. Which bravo for bringing them back, because the second Patty Considine was briefly on board back, I was like, this season.
Yeah, he showed up for like one scene, like 3 straight episodes. I was like, I'm in for this.
Oh yeah, I was like, the season's saved. I don't. Can they figure out how to do like a mountain on him and just move his corpse around?
One of the things that I really, speaking of Patty Considine's brief appearances in this series, one of the things I really loved, like, I don't know what these visions are, whether it's the weird Scottish witch or if it's the Godswood that's affecting how Damon is interpreting what's happening. But Patty Considine's performance, going back to what we said about season 1 with Patty Considine, he carries that performance, and the way he's like hunched over every time he's talking to Damon, like he's just so weary of having to wear the crown, and the way he talks to Damon about like, you were never meant to have the crown because you wanted it. And it's so good and powerful. The performance of it all, just again, like, yeah, he's ill throughout most of season 1, and I'm sure that's how Damon remembers him. But it's also kind of like the weight of the crown is what killed him more than it is the disease. And the way he's performing it, you just get that.
Oh, it truly is. It is the manifestation of heavy is he who wears the crown perfectly. And when they were there, I was excited. When, the young princess was there, I was briefly excited because, you pull some Star Wars shit on me. Let's take a look into the void kind of stuff. And stuff did happen. We got some dragon fights. We got some escalation of
We got
action.
a lot of dragon fights.
Oh yeah. So I do not agree that nothing happened in the season. I, however, massively disagree by teasing and explaining that this is about to happen and calling an episode The Distillation of Smog, and you cut to 2 years later. Because that's what they did to us. They gave us that. I was like, as I'm watching, I'm like, okay, people are moving. Ooh, okay. Ooh, triumphant music. Oh, yes. I forgot how amazing Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon music is just gives me shivers, and I'm excited. And I wasn't looking at the clock, but then I kind of glanced at the clock and I realized, wait, is it almost about to turn over the hour? Oh no! No, no, no! Oh, it's over.
Yeah.
I thought maybe we're getting like a 90, 120-minute episode.
It was a 70-minute episode.
Yeah.
And it still wasn't the way I interpreted episode 8. Well, I shouldn't say interpreted it, but the way it felt was more like how, like, it's the setup episode to, like, if this was Game of Thrones, it'd be like episode 9, the one where things actually happen. And then season 10 was typically like setting up the board for the next season.
Yeah.
Episode 9 was kind of like the season finale. And then episode 10 was always like the bonus episode to get you ready for the next season. And this one felt like it was setting up for like that big season finale episode. The board is set. There's a plan that's obviously going to fail. We've got a bunch of new people that are, one of them is very clearly going to be turning on the people who brought them into power.
Oh, immediately.
There's a whole bunch of stuff happening. And now we have to wait 2, maybe 3 years for this show to come back. And I don't know if it's just like what they've done with the makeup, but Matt Smith is looking old all of a sudden.
I'm assuming that's because he's been stoned for 6 of the 8 episodes. Especially going to
Did he always have the bleached eyebrows too? I feel like there were some episodes where like we could not see his eyebrows at all. Like he just looked like a little bit of Voldemort with a really blonde wig.
I think they're kind of doing the opposite of what they did with Tyrion in Game of Thrones, where they had him like really bleached and kind of looking one way, and then as the seasons went on, they just went, just show up on set. We're gonna roll with this.
We'll give you like the lemon squeeze blonde.
Oh yeah,
even though Targaryen's just supposed to have blonde manes.
Oh yeah, or Jaime Lannister going from like these luscious kind of like dirty blonde to just.
He's brunette.
You're a brunette, no. Right? I mean, you've been maybe
the only one that stayed the blonde was Cersei.
Yeah. Oh, you know what it is? I just figured it out. Why Jaime's hair changed? It is the Rapunzel magic. Whenever he's with Cersei, his hair goes blonde.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with like character development. You know, like they're foregoing their Lannister heritage and therefore their blondness fades.
Until he gets back with Cersei and she sings the song and it comes back.
And then they all get crushed by giant boulders.
I'm sure it's fine. I did not need the unnecessary flash forward back to the future of seeing the White Walkers and Dany. That was okay.
I liked it because it did give... I was getting pretty well settled into the idea that they were setting up the 3-headed approach like they were for Game of Thrones, where it was you have the blacks versus the greens, and then Daemon was kind of going to be like the White Walker threat, going to kind of cut between the two, where it's like, oh, we have to come together for our mutual enemy. But that never accumulated to anything, which, like, cool, less predictable. But it's also a little anticlimactic that he's just like, I've seen the vision of Aegon the Conqueror, and I believe in the Song of Ice and Fire. I will bend the knee. And that's kind of it, which, like, cool, he's been humbled through this experience, but that experience took him 7 episodes to get through.
I still believe the show is, mid-seasons Game of Thrones. It's the graphics are incredible. They turned up the someone remembered to turn on a light switch so we can actually see what's happening this season. I remember I was talking about season 1 and it's like I'm going to start watching this in my basement with resolution turned to max so I can actually
I remember that, yeah.
Max, no pun intended. So I can actually see this, but
boo, Max.
It's a gorgeous looking show. I don't know why. I still just have the biggest crush on Olivia Cook, even though we know she misinterpreted the prophecy wrong, and her sons are terrible. Thankfully, they kind of got rid of one or two.
And there's a third son that we never knew about that they're foreshadowing.
Apparently,
he's out in Old Town or Red Town, whatever town the Hightowers are from.
Yeah, and Emma Darcy, they continue to just be fantastic, mixing things
They
up.
really came into this role this season.
Oh, yeah.
Like I remember being a little jarred with the time jump when they came in as grown-up Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
And this season really allowed them to shine through their performance. And it was something that was quite spectacular. I don't
Yes.
know that it's quite Patty Considine levels, but it is definitely something that they are doing very well, and they are showing why they were cast for this role.
Yes.
And to your point, Olivia Cook too, like she's fantastic. I still think between the two child actor to adult actor transitions, Olivia Cook is the better of the two options. She looks very much like her younger counterpart still, and she portrays that innocence still very well, because she has kind of grown out of that naivety a little bit, but she's still very much like, I thought I was doing the right thing for the right reasons, and now I'm starting to have second thoughts seeing how awful my children are.
If I remember correctly, it's something along the lines of they didn't really want the adult actors to interact with the child actors just because they wanted them like not to pick up like too many traits, mannerisms, or whatever. But for the viewer, you need that through line with that harsh cut of, episode to episode of like they were children, now they're adults. And I think Olivia Cook did that better. But Emma Darcy is just owning the role. My only real complaint about the plot of this season involving the two of them is that I need them to finish statements when they realize the other person is like, I really would have liked a moment like, well, he said, my husband said Aegon, so it must be Aegon. If Princess Rhaenyra would have just gone, oh, Dad was obsessed. Yeah, but
she kind of did, because she's like, he told you about the Song of Ice and Fire, and then Alicent is kind of like, the fuck are you talking about? Just like the Song of Ice and Fire. And they have this realization that like something is happening, but they don't go that extra step to be like, let's clear this up.
You're right.
Because they're still too like antagonistic towards each other.
Yeah, that's my only thing is like, I really wish, I just wish they would have hashed that out. Just have it, the brief moment, hash it out, be like, oh, you thought this, I thought this. Oh, and then then they can still have a moment where like, this is going to be a hard sell to the small council. And then, Rhaenyra's like, this is going to be a hard sell to my uncle. We might just have to do this, even though we realize we just effed up. Like, if only we had talked to children instead of you going around accusing me of being a hoe to everyone.
Yeah. It was a very solid season, but I do think that most of the story feels like half a season. Like this feels very much like a better version of The Hobbit, where
yes.
it's stretched out to a point that is still somewhat satisfying, but because they're not adapting multiple books into one season like they did with Game of Thrones, they're just stretching out one book over 3 or 4 seasons, which hopefully it's only 3 seasons, because it feels like we're getting close to the turn, and then we just climax at that point.
Yeah.
But overall, I do think I think the quality of this season was pretty consistent compared to season 1. I think season 1 was pretty good, but there was a lot of hit and miss stuff too for me, I think. But overall, I do think that season 2 of House of the Dragon is pretty good, but it's going to be very reliant on how they stick the landing for season 3 and maybe season 4 if they continue to stretch this out to like 4 or 5 seasons instead of what feels like should only be 3 seasons at most.
Oh, I completely agree with all of that. It was a good watch. I wasn't annoyed at all. I mean, there are too many characters. There are a few moments where it's just like, dear Lord.
And they keep introducing more.
Yeah, it's like, who is this? Why are they here? I feel like if this was on Prime, I would hit the X-ray button so I could get the little pop-ups above everyone's head of like who everybody is. Because I feel like Max, what they're trying to do is, where there's so many people and so many things and so many moving parts, I really think that they're getting some of their viewer numbers by people just starting over and being like, okay, they said that guy's name, they said that person's name. Let me go back to the beginning of the episode so I can actually make sense of what the hell just happened. But it's good. It's still good. I don't want to wait 2 years.
That's going to be the biggest problem. Is as soon as the credits started rolling in this episode, I joked with Ricky, like 2 to 3 years, we're going to have to, and maybe that's the model, is they make us wait this long for production because one, everything is reactionary now. It's not like, hey, this had a good season 1. We're going to renew it for 2 seasons and see what happens after season 2. And we'll let them finish out season 3. And then we're going to call it quits. Now it's, okay, let's see how like 4 weeks after season 2 ends, how people are responding. Okay, we'll greenlight season 3. You can start production in 6 months, and then that shoot's going to take 6 to 8 months, and then editing is going to take another 6 to 8 months, and then we'll release it. So it'll be like 18 to 25, 26 months after the season ends that you'll get your next season.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just going to put this out here. I know we don't release this as a video format, but we are aging quicker than Matt Smith, like you said.
Yeah.
I'm going balder.
My hair has gotten longer.
Yes.
Like the last, I had a haircut the last time this show was, when this show ended on season 1. That was like one of the last times I got a haircut, and my hair is now beyond my shoulders. So like, get to step in here, HBO.
I've gone balder and grayer. I mean, I can't fight that. Just like I can't fight my love for apparently Sir Cole, who continues to be a scumbag. Every time I think he has a moment to redeem himself, he's still just a whiny bastard.
I like that he's kind of personified the hypocrisy of the Kingsguard, because like the King of Sweden from The Great, who plays Alicent's brother in this, I can't remember his name, Wayne with a G, Gwaine. In the final episode, he kind of confronts Kristen Cole, and he's like, why the hell are you fucking my sister? Aren't you sworn to celibacy? And he's like, I mean, we're supposed to be. and then Gwaine goes, well, what about your brethren in the guard? Like, don't they? And he's like, no. And then Gwaine just like, the glass shatters for him. He's like, what the hell is honor in anything that we do then, if even these guys who are sworn to celibacy are not celibate? And I think segueing from that, I think maybe this will be the last thing we touch on before we get out of here, because we're trying to make this quick. I love the idea that there were like dozens, if not hundreds, of Targaryen bastards just hanging around in Old Town. And they just set them on fire, just trying to be like, hey, maybe one of you can tame a dragon, maybe two, if we're lucky. And the dragon's just like, fuck these guys, and sets all but 2 of them aflame. And now it's like, hey, this is why there's no more Targaryens, because all the bastards got burned up 100 years ago.
That to me should have been played I would have appreciated just a little bit more of like airplane style humor. Like just a little bit more over the top, like that scene, like that part of the plane where like they're trying to calm down an airplane, they're trying to calm down the hysterical person. If there just would have been kind of like a little bit more lean into the line of like, we have a line of people here that are just going to be set on fire. Like, let's just see how this goes. Because that made me laugh. But you're right. This show is fantastic. And I have learned something very important now. If you're going to be a bastard in this universe, get the hell out of King's Landing, because Roberts all get killed in an episode. All the Targaryens getting killed. The only one who survives is the dude who got in a rowboat and disappeared for 4 years. So please.
And it's only because he was useful. He was a blacksmith. Exactly. And in this one, the blacksmith survives too.
We have learned the secret. Be a bastard blacksmith. You'll survive the Game of Thrones.
And last thing, Ulf is going to be the guy that I'm going to love seeing die the most. He's the loudmouth bastard that somehow got a dragon. Like, how the hell? Like, if there's supposed to be some kind of like integrity meter on the dragons where they're like, yeah, this guy's worthy of letting me fly around on his back. What is it? Silverwing is now his dragon that he gets.
I don't remember.
It's Silverwing and Vermithor, I think, were the 2 that hadn't been claimed, and then Sea Smoke was the other one. But Ulf, like, when they introduced him, you're like, okay, this guy's got to play a role in something. Mm-hmm. And him just being this loudmouth bastard who's like, oh yeah, I rose up from nothing just because a dragon chose me in a cave when I crushed its eggs. Like, that's a power move right there, I guess.
I'm really hoping that their death is like season 3, episode 1, like 45 seconds in, they just show him flying in, and then off screen another dragon just swoops by and just plucks him right off, and he's dead.
No, he's gonna be turncoat, because they're setting up the board to the point where like there's the equal amount of dragons on each side, and then the one daughter of Daemon that doesn't have a dragon that was supposed to get the giant one that Aemond flies. I forget its name.
Big dragon.
Starts with a V. Yeah, the big dragon. She's going to go tame a wild dragon, and that's going to be like the turning point. She's like, look, I'm not useless. I'm not just a babysitter. And that's kind of going to be what it is. But like Ulf is very clearly going to turn and go to the greens with his dragon because he's not going to like how Rhaenyra is treating him. But overall, I'm still very much like, I liked how the marketing for this episode or for this season was all must choose. Are you team or House Black or House Green? And we've seen season 1. So anyone who's House Green is kind of a dumbass.
How
because it's very
dare you?
Hey, even Alicent is turning to House Black. Like, come on.
I will follow Allison to the ends of the earth.
Okay, so you're House Black.
And when she tells me how to vote, I will do that.
And with that, we're going to get out of here. If you want more like in-depth episode breakdowns, I will shout out the Arya Talking to Me podcast, which we'll link in the episode description. Give them a listen. They are a couple of Australian dudes who break down the episodes every week, and it's a lot of fun. They cannot remember anyone's names. I had a cheat sheet, which is why I knew some of the names, but I couldn't tell you who is who. I just have a vague memory of who plays who, and that's how I went with it. So if I was more vague in other areas, it's because I don't know who the hell who is. But other than that, again, don't forget to join our Discord. Find us on social medias at Talking Smack Pod, Blue Sky, Instagram, Hive, Hive Social, Threads, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Lonnie's website. Alex, who's doing a remix?
Eve best, because R.I.P. Princess Rhaenyra. You were the best one.
Rhaenys?
Rhaenys, there you go, yeah.
Rhaenys. Thank you to Leo Allen for our musical themes, Retroil Studios for our avatars, Beppo for our avatars, Retroil Studios for our Ricky avatar. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review. We'll be back on Wednesday where Matt and I talk San Diego Comic-Con news, which foreshadow or let you know we completely forgot about the Thunderbolts because everyone forgot about the Thunderbolts. But thanks so much for listening, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you in 3 years for House of the Dragon Season 3. And watch Star Trek.